Trading places with the
The struggle for civil rights is a very sophisticated type of thing now, and our problem is and has been to develop more sophisticated methods with which to deal with it. We certainly cannot deal with our problems today as we did, say, 23 years ago, because they are different. They come at us in a different way, in a more subtle way. And many times they're hidden, and you don't know they're there until they break out somewhere, and you discover that you are the victim of the old racism of antiquity.
Tallahassee, Florida's state capital, home to not only more than 180,000 people, but also two prestigious universities. Florida A&M, a historically black institution founded in 1887, and Florida State, a predominantly white institution founded 16 years earlier. The two schools, less than a mile apart, are separated only by railroad tracks. Culturally, however, there is much more distance between them. Today, Tallahassee epitomizes diversity and cultural consciousness. But just 50 years ago, there existed a much different atmosphere. Tension in Tallahassee and other parts of North Florida was rabid, and in some cases, violence even erupted.
The whites smashed through the lines of officers and disrupted the march. The Negroes were attacked for perhaps half a minute before the officers could halt the violence.
Both FAMU and FSU students took an active role in the struggle for civil rights. In 1960, 11 people, including 5 FAMU students, were arrested while participating in Tallahassee's first sit-in. One of the other 6 was a 16-year-old named Henry Steele. His father was civil rights leader Reverend C.K. Steele.
Back then, everything was hostile when it came to race and black and white. And if you were nothing before you go to jail, you can imagine how much of nothing you were when you did go. There were constant threats and harassment because of my dad's leadership.
Former Florida A&M head football coach Rudy Hubbard recalls a similar experience.
I'm a guy, man, who had a cross burned on the yard. You know, yes, here in Tallahassee, I had a cross burned on my yard. Then a couple weeks after that, they put KKK on my fence and put a big dummy in my yard that the face was in soot, you know, with white eyes and football jersey on top that had been shooting at.
Despite their demographic differences, one common bond that FAMU and FSU share is a rich football history. Combined, the schools have won 23 conference titles and 3 national championships. Ironically, one bond they also share is that for the first time in history, both schools began the past season with minorities at starting quarterback. The first black featured quarterback at FSU came in 1992. Thomasville, Georgia native Charlie Ward won the Heisman, then led the Noles to their first national championship in '93. 10 years later, in 2003, Florida A&M named their first white starter, Iowa State transfer Ben Doherty. In 2010, FAMU's Austin Trainer, after being promoted to starter, went a perfect 3-0 to close the season, including an upset win over Bethune-Cookman, their only loss of the year. Opposite of him, Florida State's E.J. Manuel is poised to lead the Noles after showing flashes of greatness, willing his team to consecutive bowl victories in relief of injured one-time Heisman hopeful Christian Ponder. Both players still had to earn their starting spot as spring practice opened back in March. Given the history of race relations not just in Tallahassee but nationwide, the possibility made for interesting conversation.
Yeah, well, definitely 50 years ago, I mean, you probably wouldn't have seen the same scenario rise. Right now, I don't really think people have really realized that there's a white quarterback at FAM and a new black quarterback at FSU. I don't think they've realized really what's going on yet or the significance of the matter. So I think when that comes into full effect, people are going to open their eyes a little more widely. And I just think that is great.
I think it may show how far we've really come, especially in the South. Having, President Obama, having Barack Obama as president notwithstanding, the fact that, you've got two schools that, for years, going back, in the 50s, 60s, they were totally separate.
It is unusual what's happening at Florida State, as you point in Tallahassee, with Florida State possibly having a black quarterback, likely to have a black quarterback. He's our returning starter if he wins the job, and then Florida A&M may have a white quarterback. So that's interesting, but it's nice that it's nothing beyond interesting.
I think we've really grown. I think the significant thing is that we're talking about opportunity, and opportunity is there for a young man who wants to be a quarterback at FAM, and he just happens to be a white guy, and the vice versa over at FSU.
Manuel and Trainer both had a productive spring, including strong performances in their spring games. Despite being in this unique situation, they each say the fact that they're minorities at their respective schools doesn't present added pressure.
It really doesn't matter what color you are. It matters if you can play. And I think that's the biggest goal. I don't think, color really plays a difference on any football team, especially throughout this whole, this level of Division I football. I don't really think it matters anymore.
The team and the coaches, they want to win. So, I mean, if the player's white, and then they're going to play him. If he's black, they're going to play him. I mean, like those guys have already said, color's not really the issue. It's a matter of, is this the best athlete to put in?
Kes McCorvey, former Seminole receiver, national champion, and teammate of Charlie Ward, gives his perspective as to why the two athletes don't feel they have more to prove because of their race.
I think him being a black quarterback, I don't think adds to any pressure that he already doesn't have. And I think the same way on the other side, a quarterback at FAMU, I don't think him being white adds any pressure to him. He wants to start. He wants to succeed. He wants to have his team do well. He wants to do all those things right there, and then, he's just white.
They threw an incompletion.
Former college football star Sean Jones recalls himself being in a similar situation as EJ in Austin. Jones, an African-American and 4-year starter at quarterback for Georgia Tech, led the Yellow Jackets to a national championship in 1991.
In quarterback meetings, I was the only black guy. And fortunately, I think the Spirit of God kind of wired me where that wasn't something I was looking at, where I wasn't going to play because of the color of my skin. No, my mindset was I was going to be the guy, and whatever I had to do that. And so even when we went into quarterback meetings, if there were 5 or 6 guys ahead of me, my mindset was, well, he can't play, he can't read, he can't throw. And so that was the way I kind of looked at the situation. And so that's the approach that I had when I came here.
I don't really see it as pressure. I think the main pressure is put on by yourself.
We're not a raceless society. We're nowhere close to that. But we are making strides to becoming a more unified nation. There are a lot of things going on politically that need a lot of work. But when you get down to talking about athletics and sports and players competing, and what you're seeing something totally different on the sports field.
You can say the right thing about race, and people will take it the wrong way a lot of times. And so, there's a lot of things that can be taken out of context in race, and so a lot of people have to have hurt feelings about it, and probably maybe irrational feelings about race as well.
It doesn't matter. Whether you're white or black, if you're a good quarterback, you're a good quarterback. And I say, bravo for both schools, and long time coming.
Considering all the things that have happened, for Black Americans, the things that a lot of people had to go through, especially in the South, I think the hearts of people have changed. I think things have changed for the better. However, I think people still have to understand where we are and not forget, the things that we come from.
I'm sure there are pockets of society and probably players on teams that are still racist on both sides. And maybe one day we'll get rid of that, but it's probably existed since society started and probably will unfortunately exist until society ends.
Yeah, athletics in general, I mean it's able to overcome so much. I mean, like the feelings I have for my teammates are really strong just from the stuff that we've been through. Nobody sees color, nobody sees ethnicity, race, religion, anything like that. We're brothers.